The great Mother Teresa said, "The most terrible poverty is loneliness and the feeling of being unloved." I'm not here to disagree with Mother Teresa, but on this point she is wrong, because you can actually really find out that you're actually loved and give love as well, and I'm going to discuss that right now, because there's new science out there saying that we can actually change our brains and then use that in some creative way to actually help others and be with others too. Let's find out. Scientists now are showing what loneliness looks like in your brain, and yes, it actually can change your brain. The McGill University is looking at how this was achieved, and how this was achieved was a new study, of course, and the study was looking at the signature in the brains of lonely people that make them distinct in fundamental ways, so that we're all different. Obviously we are as human beings, but imagine our brains are actually changing due to how we socialize or not socialize. Now that's actually a scary thought, but it's also a very interesting one. At times such as the coronavirus, COVID-19, we all perhaps experienced moments when we were felt completely alone, and for some people that aloneness would then be manifested in loneliness, and that you actually didn't have anybody to speak to. Yes, we had Zooms, yes, we had all these social medias that we just completely clung to, but the reality is we perhaps could have been lonely quite a lot of the way through, especially the first lockdown in early 2020. But after that, of course, you begin to learn how to be alone, to stave off loneliness, to kind of try and keep yourself busy as such. But you can still underneath be very, very lonely. And this is what has happened. And it can also happen like at Christmas and holidays and so on. Isolation affects our health, there's no doubt about it. A new study showed this sort of signature in our brains of lonely people that makes them distinct in fundamental ways. How so? Because of the variations in the volume of different brain regions, as well as based on how these regions communicate with one another across different brain networks, imagine. So the team of researchers here, they examined the brains of people using magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI. They looked at the data of 40,000 middle-aged and older adults who volunteered to have the information included in the UK Biobank. And this was an open access database available to health scientists around the world. Now if you think about it from a point of view of 40,000, how many is 40,000 with regard to this study? It's absolutely huge. If we look at, say for example, COVID-19 again, and the coronavirus, we look at how Pfizer, they developed their very famous and the very first one, the vaccine that is, which had 95-96% certainty. There was like 44,000 people involved in that study. So this particular study has 40,000. So it's really, really, really important, the study, that loneliness, if you're feeling lonely, this is what you can do on coming to it, and how it actually is changing your brain. Now the parts of your brain that it has found that can be seen to have changed are to do with essentially how the brain has manifested, where it's this like central default network, right? And there's a set of brain regions involved in inner thoughts, such as your planning for the future, of course, and your availability and ability to imagine, and also thinking about others. Now, obviously, if you have just nobody around at all, absolutely nobody, you're not going to be thinking about others as in, will I actually make the dinner for them? Well, I don't really need to make the dinner, because other than me just eating what I want, do I really need to bother buying or going out and actually buying for 2 or 3 other people? No, I don't. Why? Because it's just me. I'm lonely, so therefore I'm not actually going to have to go out and buy for 3 or 4 people. That affects your planning as well, because I don't have to go to the shop at a certain time to avoid traffic, to actually go to the bank to get the money in the first place. So I don't have to plan for these 2 or 3 things that would enable me to do the third thing, which is cooking for 2 or 3 people. So I don't actually have to worry about what they like. Therefore, I don't have to use the skill, and it's all skills that we're using here. I don't have to use the skill of cooking for 2 or 3, or cooking in a different manner, because obviously one maybe out of 3 people might decide to eat something different in a different way. Or I don't actually have to worry about just setting the table or planning the chairs or cleaning that particular side of the room. So if you're not using these skills, you lose them. It's that simple. Now the interesting thing here is that the researchers have found that the default networks of lonely people were more strongly wired together, and surprisingly their grey matter, this part of the brain, the grey matter volume in regions of the default networks was greater. Loneliness also correlated, it said, with the difference in the fornix, a bundle of nerve fibers. Nerves, remember, we feel a lot from nerves that carry signals from the hippocampus in the brain to the default network. In lonely people, the structure of these fiber tracts was better preserved. We use, it says, quote unquote, the default network when remembering the past, envisioning the future, or thinking about a hypothetical present. So in other words, presently, well, I'm going to go over there now to the fridge and get myself a cup of milk. But hypothetically, if somebody was here, I could say, do you want something from the fridge? I'm going to the fridge. Or I'm going to the kitchen. Would you like something? So there's this hypothetical present as such. Of course, if you're looking at the past, you're looking at it in a different way as well. You're remembering the past. You might be remembering people in it. But as a lonely person, you might actually start remembering just yourself, how you felt. Why? Because you're already conditioning yourself to think in the very linear present. So you're thinking about things, about me right now, exactly me. Why? Because it's a survival strategy, isn't it? To think that way, and if you have nobody else and you know nobody else is going to be around you from day to day, well, then you're going to start syncing with that linear pattern back to when you're thinking in that way in the past, but looking at it from a different point of view. Then in the future, again, you're not going to have as much hope, or if you are having hope, it's done in a different way, because you're hoping to meet people, you're hoping to go to events or hoping to go to gatherings. You're looking at dates and calendars in a different way. You have this more increase of what it is you need. You're aware that you're drained of people and social communication, connection, so that your neurology is then wiring itself differently, which is fascinating, but it's also kind of scary. So there's a heightened, it says, quote unquote, focus on self-reflection and possibly imagined social experiences would naturally engage the memory-based functions of the default network. And this is where the likes of cognitive decline could be at risk for people that are lonely, or therefore the likes of dementia and so on. So this is, it's a hugely growing field, unfortunately, the likes of dementia and Alzheimer's, and there's more people at risk. So loneliness is going to stop you looking back on your memories in a certain way, therefore you're not actually going to use those parts of your brain in the best possible way. So if you meet up with a friend and you're saying, hey, let's sit down and just talk about old times, what are you going to do? You're both going to relate back to your side of the story and their side of the story, and both of you are going to bing back, over and back, ding da ling ding ding, and then there's going to be a whole truth around that, the context, not just your perception as such. So you're going to see and feel and know the difference. As wonderful and all as Mother Teresa is, what an incredible person to want to be, when she was like 18 years old, join the nuns and just want to help the poor, and did that all throughout her life. Just incredible person. But as great and all as she is, and that quote about her like wanting and knowing about loneliness being bad, she's right there, but she's also wrong insofar as her perhaps being lonely herself, she was around other people. Why? Because she was volunteering, and it's voluntary work that, like, actions speak louder than words, and that's exactly what she did. And it's voluntary work that can help you, if you're lonely, to get out there and to meet people. This is going to trigger all those neural networks in your brain and make you think differently, not just about yourself but about others. It's also going to make you think differently about the present. You're going to think about the hypothetical present again. You're going to think about the past in a different way. In fact, it may give you a social confidence as such, probably will, where you're actually going to say, hey, I think I'll make contact with that old buddy, that old friend from school. Why not? I mean, life has gone by, years and years have gone by, decades have gone by, and what's the worst they can do? Slam down the phone. Yeah, they can slam down the phone, but sure, So what? You're just saying hello. It's like Happy Christmas. It's a good thing, isn't it? It's positive. So doing this, making those connections with people is super, super positive. Volunteering is the way to go. So, hope you liked the video. If you have, and if you got some help from it, please hit that button. Until next time, though, have a unlonely, if that's a word, but definitely a positive and happy, connective